Welcome again to this space open to us by the Colegio de Investigación Interdisciplinaria en Ciencias Sociales. This interview is part of the first international cycle of creators in science and arts. My name is Ivonne Velázquez Sánchez, and today I have the pleasure to talk to postgraduate David Huerta Osornio. He currently works as a state-appointed English-Spanish expert translator at the Secretariat of Migrants of the government of the state of Michoacán. He is the president of the Michoacán Association of Linguistic Translators and Interpreters, Oriente Social Educativo, General Secretary of the Center for Higher Studies and Linguistic Research. He also coordinates the diploma program in translation at UNAM and also at the Language Center of the National School of Higher Studies, Morelia Unit, where he is also being a teacher in different careers. He's also a trial lawyer, as well as a translator and interpreter trainer. Well, hello, David. Welcome to this space.
Ivonne, it is a pleasure for me to be here today to share all of these activities in the state of Michoacán that have and has to do all these activities that has to do with translation, with training, with interpreting or interpretation, as you wish to say it, and in name of my school, the Instituto de Formación e Investigaciones Jurídicas de Michoacán, where I am also a teacher. I appreciate your great idea in order to collaborate and to generate some other projects for the benefit of the translators, the people, the scientists, and the community.
No, we thank you for your time. So why do you think is relevant, the field of translation, especially now that we are seeing so many advances in AI and everything? Why do you think is relevant?
Translation has to do with the idea of humankind by itself. We tend to think that all languages were built the same way. A couple of people think that in English you have an article, then a noun, then an adjective, and then some other things. And they also think that in all languages it should be the same, but they are not aware of the meta translation. You have to understand the word in a specific area of your country in order to understand the ideas, the cosmovision. It is not only the process of replacing word by word from one language to the other. Specifically and technically speaking, when we are speaking about translation, we have two languages. One where we start from, which we call the native tongue, or the original language, or the base language, or it depends on different people or books that you check. And the target language is that other language in which you are translating the words into. And this translation has different, I like to call them vehicles. You have different vehicles that you can drive or you can use to carry that message into the other language. Of course, there are different theories about translation, but the ones I like is that you cannot act like a machine and to replace word by word. That is called literal or word by word translation. But that is not the way we translators work. You have some other vehicles, for example, adaptation or adapting. It depends on the context. But you can use different words to take that message into a different language. In a minute, I'm going to explain that adaptation and transliteration is not a translation. We have another way, another vehicle, another means to take words from one language to the other. And this could be speaking about the philosophical area, hermeneutics. But that is not translation. What we do call translation is something that you can measure, is something that you can provide to a different human being, and he can also take some parameters in order to evaluate, to assess if that translation is a correct translation. It has only three different stages or step. This is not something that I wrote that I would have liked to to think about it years ago, but no, this is from a person who is called Valentin Garcia Yebra, and he stated about 25, I guess, 25 or 30 years ago, that translation has these three different steps. One, you have to say everything that you see in the original language. Number two, you do not have to translate something that you cannot see in the original language. And the stage or step number three, you have to try, and this is a very important word. You have to try to keep a balance between those two languages. Unfortunately, I used to add a fourth step, which I'm not really sure to say today, but that also works. It's from a translator called Yevgeny Yevtushenko. He used to compare translation with a woman. And
that sounds an interesting analogy.
yeah, quotation marks. Yevgeny Yevtushenko is the one speaking, and he long time ago in a different era, he used to say that translation is like a woman. The one that is beautiful is not faithful, and the one that is faithful is not beautiful. But that is true. That is true because this fourth element allows us to evaluate, to assess, and to verify whether a translation is perfect or not. Let me give you an example. A common expression in the States. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! If you want to transliterate "oh my God" into Spanish, you have to replace word by word. You have to say "oh mi Dios," and you don't have the initial exclamation mark, right? So you just replace word by word. Oh mi Dios. That sounds like very like a robot, you know. It's like those very
Yeah,
old-fashioned TV
like those
programs.
expression that has that insert a cultural meaning in it, like going Dutch, uh, things like that. That only have it in American English, that it does not translate to another English by the same measurement. But you have those expressions that it is cultural more than anything else. And when you are translating, you can say like something like, vamos a pagar 50-50, or let's go 50-50. Well, we don't have that. We say, let's go Dutch. So that is not something that you can make a translation out of it.
Yeah, you have to use a different sequence of words, and always try to use this four steps or stages as you want. And the first one, you cannot transliterate, because you would be only replacing words, well, word by word by word, but that makes no sense. It's just like when our cousins in the States are saying, "Te llamo para atrás." That is a literal translation. In the Spanish language, you cannot llamar para atrás, transliteration. Yeah. Okay, let me give you two more examples. When you have to adapt, when you use adaptation or adapting a phrase, you can also say, using this expression, "Oh my God, oh my God." Instead of saying, instead of using God, you can use a saint or the Virgin or something different. It is not necessary if you are adapting to a specific region in Mexico. Instead of saying, "Oh my God," you can say Virgen Santa. Santo Niño de Atocha, it is not relevant that you are speaking the same God. It is about the purpose,
the meaning and
the
the
intention.
significance of it.
Yeah,
So,
but what?
yeah, how did
Yeah,
you
one
think?
one one or the
Sorry.
other. Yes. Okay. Well, one or the other are not translations. The first one is mechanical translation. Yeah. It's what you ask a computer to do, and that computer replaces words. When you are adapting or trying to adapt something into another language, it sounds just like not real. It's like you're watching this movie that has to do with four people driving in the States, and you clearly see on screen that they are going through a road which is called uh, Washington Avenue, for example. And but people in the Spanish version of that movie are saying, "Okay, we are going through Avenida Constitución," even if you are clearly looking on screen that is a different street or road or way in a different country. You cannot adapt that much. It doesn't sound natural. And that leads us to translation. You have to say everything that you see in the original language. Okay, if you're translating "Oh my God," "Oh mi Dios," it doesn't sound good. Well, "Oh Dios mío." Okay, those are three words. In Spanish is three words. Oh, that works fine so far. You don't have to say nothing that you cannot see in the original language. Well, in this example, we are not inventing, we are not creating. Okay, so stage number 2 is completed. The third step, it has to sound more or less, you have to try to sound more or less natural. Does it sound natural? Yes. Oh my God. Oh Dios mío. Yes, and you include an exclamation mark at the beginning. Okay. Is it a faithful translation or is it a beautiful translation? it is a faithful translation.
So, in that sense, how do you think your work interacts with people's daily lives, even when they are not noticing? You say, like, this translation from this street to this name, I'm going to change it. And people might not realize that what the translator did, but it's helping them to understand the context and everything. So, how do you think that your work interacts with people's daily life?
It happens every day. Last year, and when I'm saying we, I refer to a big team in the office, about 15 translators. Uh, we made last year, on 2025, about 11,000 translations, which is the equivalent of the same number, I mean, of people requiring a legal translation to do something. What is that something? You want to get your dual citizenship, or you were born in the States and you also want to be a Mexican national. Well, you have to ask for a certified translation in order to appear before the civil registry or vital records in Mexico, and to ask for your Mexican nationality. Number two, people who pass away in the States and the family want them to go back to Mexico. Well, you also need to have a certified translation of the certificate stating how that person died. You want to get married in Mexico. Okay, you will need your certified translation. You want to adopt a person, you got divorced in the States and now you want to get married again in Mexico. Okay, you need one certified translation, which also includes the international standard of translation. That is ISO 83 and 24. It indicates translators a series of steps in order to make sure he himself and the person receiving the translation that they have a certified translation, that nobody's going to object that translation. Because, for example, in Mexico, we have the word ñ, and it doesn't exist in the States. So any person who is pena, pina,
Leñero. Oh,
penalosa,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, is legally a different person in Mexico. And
So
thus,
I want to ask you this because, like you said, language permeates everything in our life, from the legality of being born to being dead. So, how do you think that influenced your personal and professional life, like being a translator yourself?
it is my life. It is my life. I heard someone said that translation, well, some people think that translation is a free time activity, just like going walking or playing an instrument or something that you do on weekends. No, 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 my friend. What I do think is that translation is what makes us free all the time. It is my life. I count my life in translations, not in hours. After I finish this translation, I'm going to sleep. After I get done with these two translations, I'm going to this other place. It happens for me since I was a child. I used to listen to things, to people. how people actually spoke. And the funny thing is that I normally, and it is not the case now, I normally do not hear what people is saying. I hear how they
They are
say it.
saying, yes.
Yeah, and that is a big difference. I used to think that I was kind of somebody from a different world or planet, or I didn't realize when I was a child that I was made, that I was created, uh, that I was born to
To do
to
this.
to do this, to translate things, to explain things, and I love explaining things to myself and to other people. It all started with music. Somebody told me when I was like 6, I guess, that a specific song of the Beatles, Yellow Submarine, somebody said, "Oh, that is called Submarino Amarillo," and I said, "Okay, I get it. Yellow, that's an easy word to learn in Spanish, even if you don't speak English. And submarine, uh, submarino. Uh, that's where I started at about 6. I also discovered that music has translations. You can translate one chord from the guitar to the piano. I also learned that you can translate words into images. You can translate a movie into sign language. Uh, you can translate everything. And when I learned that some person from Russia, like 50 or 60 years ago, uh, he discovered how the people in the Mayan area, the Mayans, described he discovered the Mayan language, even not speaking Spanish. And
Mhm.
he had never visited Mexico before that. And I said, okay, I can do that. If that person in Russia 50 years ago managed to discover the way people 500 years ago used to speak, now that we have computers, dictionaries, etc., that you can translate whatever you want, and I like it, and I love it, and I give my life to translation and for translation. And we translators also have numbers about uh, when you're bluffing. When some other translation for the first time asks you, "Oh, how many pages do you translate every day?" Mm, the normal rate of pages every day is about 45 or 50.
For a full day work. Okay.
Yeah, 8 hours in a day.
Uh,
Well, and that is why I love translation. I also discovered a long time ago that I really wanted to learn translation. I wanted somebody to teach me, to tell me how to translate words or things. And the first person I called when I started legally translating, well, it was my English teacher, a person who I know for my entire life. And I asked him, "Oh, hey, teacher, how do you translate licenciado in something?" He said, "I don't know. And I said, okay, you are my English teacher. You should know how to translate it. Well, the final answer was no. So being aware that nobody was going to teach me, being aware that there were no procedures, I started by myself teaching, giving classes, courses, diploma courses, and specific training for translators. Because, as you know, when you teach, you have to learn 10 times more to teach. And that's what I did since 2005, I guess. It's about 20 years ago when we started in Michoacan doing the first investigations research for translation and translation procedures and proceedings. By now, we
After
have.
all, sorry, and after all those years of specializing and doing research and work, is there a question that still drives you in general or your research, something that you want to keep pursuing?
Yes, I I've always wanted to know, to learn the meaning of life. You know, it's a philosophical topic or matter, but I thought that I could be able to discover by myself, and that's why I started knocking on different doors, uh, philosophers, people from theology, people from different topics, areas, and even those not so well known agencies, companies, schools, uh, and I learned that nobody has the real answer. Nobody knows the meaning of life. I learned that you have to learn by yourself, and you have also the responsibility to show, not to teach, to show other people the meaning of life.
At least the result of your investigation so far, isn't it? Well, science, art, and literature have different tasks, but most of the time they find a shared place to be in. And I believe that translation is an in between places. It is not exactly science, it's not exactly art, and it's not exactly literature. What is your opinion on this, and how do you think translation connects them?
I wish I had a DeLorean, you know, I wish, and to go back time like 30 years, because I discovered that if a person wants or decides to become a translator, the first thing that person has to do is to translate something from literature. You have to translate songs, poems, and after you are able to translate those romantic poems, after that you will be able to translate science science papers,
So let's
investigation.
start with the hardest thing, poetry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's the most difficult. In fact, we created like 8 years ago a specific class about song translation, songs translation. But we actually did it, and I mean it. It is not only to translate a song. You have to measure each syllable. You have to make it rhyme. And you also have to be able to play it in an instrument, in a guitar, with a bass, with the drums, or with with a stick on a bucket, you know, but you have to also getting
Give an
both.
image, give a tune, give
Yeah,
everything in the same amount of syllable. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and the
content.
results were amazing because we went out to the street, from the school to the street, and we started singing and playing all those different songs, which we also recorded. Uh, and at that specific moment, somebody was passing on a vehicle, and it was a guy from a radio station, and he was attracted to that sound,
Mhm.
to the version of that song in a different language. He said, "Okay, I kind of understand. I kind of listen to that song, but it is in a different language." Okay, when you can connect a person in a different language, you are reaching your goal. You are taking something from your culture to another one. And I also want to mention that there are two very important translators for my professional training. The first one is Saint Jerome, or San Jerónimo in Spanish, the first translator of the Bible, and the second one, Martin Luther. But I'm speaking about Martin Luther in Germany in about 100, 1,500 years, because Saint Jerome didn't write a method or a paper to teach translators how to do things, but Martin Luther did. He
Mhm.
wrote the letter for the translators, and he also explained how every translator in the world should translate. He also mentions some other bad words because he used to swear a lot. But in three lines, you can sum up the idea. Martin Luther asked translators 500 years ago to go to get up from your seat, to go out to the street and to listen, not to speak, but to listen people speak, to go to those little markets in the street, to listen how children speak, to listen how prostitutes speak, to listen how the butcher speaks,
The
and
common people.
yeah, normal people, common people, so you can translate for everyone. For you can take the same idea for different ranges of language. I'm not saying that some people can understand more or less. What I'm saying is that the technical words used in different registers are different for the people. Even here, the place where I live in Michoacan, if you go to a county, a town which is 1 hour long, you sometimes cannot understand what people are saying because of the accent, because of the different word order, because the way they see the planet, the way they understand other people is really different. And a word that can be a communicative piece of language, it could be an offense for some other people. Those kind of things.
Even among the same language. You're saying that even happens in Spanish inside one state, inside different towns. It happens in English as well. It's not the same English here in the States that it is in Australia or the United Kingdom or something like that. And even in that case, inside the same language, we have to translate, kind of, we can say that. So that is amazing that we have to do it all the time without noticing. So, what are your strategies for communicating your work into different platforms and places? Now we are touching this about many places.
Strategies. I like to share my work. I consider myself a ghost, and I like being a ghost. And let me explain. I am behind some people, some companies, some government institutions, and nobody needs to know my name. They need to know what words mean, what documents mean.
But you are not
My,
a ghostwriter, right? You're not saying that you're
no,
not a ghostwriter. You are most like a ghost hunting for meaning. Let's say that.
yeah, and I'm not speaking about myself, but I know a couple of people who ghost write for some other poets or writers. Yeah, but
But you're trying to go for the meaning. You are trying to catch the meaning of the person. So you are not trying to make it about yourself, more like what is the thing that this person wanted to share with the world?
no, and there's one funny thing that happens to me all the time is that when I speak, people tend to do what I say, and that is a risk. When I start speaking about translation, I take two or three specific matters, and after that, people start thinking or having contradictory ideas about religion, about God, about the saints, about the Virgin, about the world. And some people may they make very sad
Maybe
things.
maybe try to insert their own views or their own point of view on top of somebody else's, which is not exactly the work of the translator.
Yeah, translators, we are just bridges. We just communicate things, but people have to make their own decisions. And unfortunately for me, some of those decisions taken by different human beings have not been good. On the other hand, yes, we have worked together, and I have had the opportunity to train translators, and always stating that there is a line of respect between what I give you, what I provide you as translator, and what you can do with translation. If you want to give a number of how good translation is for everyone, I have to say that translation is not made for everyone. You have to, if you want to be a translator, you also have to accept that there is a price that you have to pay. Yeah. The first one, against yourself, you yourself. You have to go against your own ideas. And on the other hand, there are some legal, penal responsibilities. There are criminal responsibilities when you translate something in a way it shouldn't be translated. It goes in Michoacan and technically in all of Mexico. If you provide a legal translation which is not correct, it goes from 6 months to 8 years in jail. And you also have to pay some money to repair what we call reparación del daño, to repair
Restitutions.
restitutions, yes, and indemnizations for people. And if you pay with your body in jail, okay, no problem. If you pay with money, okay, you can recover it later. But if your translation affects a child, a person who is almost dying, a person who is losing his assets, the house, the car, then
Or
you are
entire cultures, like when the Spaniards came to America and tried to translate the codes that they had in there, and they misinterpreted a lot of stuff, and it was passed down, and it was a full culture of it. So it is as big as that, isn't it?
yeah, you have a big responsibility when translating, and I have noticed that you can translate something even unwillingly, even if you don't want to. You can translate even a word, even a song, even anything, and it can be considered as something opposite to what you were trying to say. And it affects people, it impacts people, communities, and as you are saying, an entire country, entire culture.
So with that all that responsibility on your back, what is your advice for someone that is starting on this journey, especially facing the new AI challenges? What is your advice for the people that's getting into this business?
You have to follow some specific steps. The first one is to always be aware of the international standard for translation, which is already established by the International Standardization Organization. That is ISO 2384. That is the first one. The second one is to follow the steps that has already. You have to translate you see document. You don't have to translate anything. No word you cannot see in the original document. You have to try to keep a balance, and you also Yevgeny Yevtushenko, that translation is like a woman. And you always have to make a decision. Is it a faithful translation or is it a beautiful translation? And to take responsibility for that translation. Those are at least the steps, the procedures, the minimum steps you have to take to make a translation and to avoid sending yourself to jail.
So find your certifications and be faithful to your text. So finally, do you want to give a reflection or a message for our viewers?
Yes, I you know, in my classes, different schools, I always have this kind of teacher joke, which says more or less, because I normally say it in Spanish, and I'll I'll do my best to try to translate it into English. Yeah. And I'm going to verify with your words if I am saying it correctly, okay? And it's a sentence. It says, you have to study, otherwise, you will end up teaching classes in a stone box garden. Can you translate that for me? I can repeat it.
In a stone word.
Okay. Word by word. Study.
Okay. Estudia.
Otherwise,
De otra manera.
you will end up
Vas a acabar.
teaching classes
Enseñando.
in a stone box garden.
I don't understand the last part though.
Why translation is difficult, you know, what is jardinero?
Ya estamos otra vez.
You know what?
Sí.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, you were right. Estudien, o de otra manera, van a terminar dando clases en una jardinera. And this teacher joke, this 45-year-old joke, is about trying to convince, trying to motivate students to not only study, but to try hard, to do what they want to do, and to use myself as a bad example of what people shouldn't be doing.
Do as I said, not how I do. So, with this beautiful advice and joke translated, so how can people find your work or the work that you do online?
They can find me through my name, which is David Huerta. Please don't get mixed up. There used to be a translator, which was also called David Huerta, which was also a teacher at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. And when he died 2 or 3 years ago, more or less, people called me day and night thinking it was myself. No. Okay. You Google up my name, you separate David Huerta, the poet, and you can find my job because you can watch my videos on YouTube with my name, David Huerta. You can find news.
The work that you do through like your geographical ubication, that is Morelia, right? So
Yeah,
they can
Morelia,
find you.
Michoacán, the communication of the government of Michoacán, where I work, where I translate documents for people, and you can also find uh, some other people's works where you can find my contributions. At this time, well, I for some other different things that happened in the past, I am not very active on social media, but you just Google up my name, or you can send me a message through my school, which is the Instituto de Formación e Investigaciones Jurídicas in Michoacán. You can also call me or text me because my cell phone number is public for everyone, and I normally receive calls and messages from different people at any time.
Well, with that in mind, first of all, I want to thank you for your time and for sharing your vast knowledge with us. And also a huge thanks to the Colegio de Investigación Interdisciplinaria en Ciencias Sociales for opening this space for us to have meaningful discussions and to bring the point of view of many specialists at the top of their fields, such as Mr. David Huerta. And to our viewers, remember to stay tuned to the YouTube channel, Facebook page for the rest of the interviews. Again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this communication, and I hope and I know and I think that people will find it useful, or at least as a first step to continue studying translation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.